going to represent yourself, Mr. Buyer. You're going to pay me just like going to a builder. You're represented by the seller's agent, but you're not protected. There's no agency agreement. So I think there is going to be a huge opportunity. It's going to be bad for the buyer, but a lot of sellers agents are going to say, sure, I'll do that work, but I'm not representing you. So I don't like dual agency.
Jay, what's your take on dual agency?
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't exist. I mean, it really, you can't facilitate the deal knowing things on both sides and not somehow get, you play to one side or the other. I think it just opens you up to a lot of potential for litigation. Never have been a fan of it.
Yeah, agreed.
John?
Yeah, I think back, I mean, remember where we came from, right? We were selling $100,000 houses. So like we had to do anything and everything we possibly could. And if that meant we get to double end a deal, we would double end a deal. Even though at our core, it's like what Jay was saying. It's like, you got insider information. You're playing both sides. I'm thinking,
John, double ending a deal doesn't necessarily mean that you're a dual agent. And that's a big distinction we have to remember. Just because you're getting both sides, right, you're charging a higher fee by handling that. So
I do, but to just echo the point, right, is to what Jay said.
When I was a listing agent, I never acted. I always told one of my value propositions to my seller that differentiated me from my competitors, because I was always going against big competitors here, is that I personally will never act as a dual agent. Now, the brokerage might, because we have lots of agents, and those agents may have a buyer, and as a broker, let's say, for instance, eXp Realty, we have 1,800 agents in Ohio. There's a chance one of them may have an agent, but I will never personally act as a dual agent for a buyer coming directly in here as an agent, but the brokerage may. Now, if they really wanted, when they were filing this lawsuit and they're trying to protect the consumer, they had a really big opportunity to make this real easy. They could have just said, no agent can act as a dual agent.
Right.
Just period. No more dual agents. Now, the brokerage can, because they can't handcuff the brokerage themselves, because they have potentially tens of thousands of agents. But the agent themselves, that would then make the buyer think twice. I'm going to come in thinking they're going to save money. They're going to come in unrepresented. And if they have any sense whatsoever, they know that there'd be nobody negotiating on their behalf, watching out for their terms, fighting for their terms, not just price, but terms of an agreement. And that was their first opportunity to make this whole thing a lot smoother. And I believe they missed the boat on that. And because we all agree on this podcast right here, dual agency does not serve the consumer as a whole. And if anything, it's been used as a tool to get, like what you said, John, both sides of the deal. You don't have to do that.
It's the whole smoke and fire. And what they're putting out is just a ton of smoke. And if you stay in the smoke, you're going to get choked out. That's what happens, right? Most people don't die from burns. They die from smoke inhalation. So if you stay in the smoke, you're going to get choked out, right? You're going to get in the smoke with these other brokers, with these other agents that are just mean and angry and hateful. And you got to kind of step back and get out of the smoke and get down into what's causing the fire, right? So it's a human need that's not being fulfilled. And the human need right now for real estate agents that's not being met is they don't feel safe. They don't feel safe financially. And you look at where we're at from a seasonal perspective, a lot of agents have burned their pipeline. They've closed deals. Now, the professionalism, the expertise, the being able to articulate your value has changed. And they don't have deals. They don't have deals in the pipeline. And so human behavior kicks in, and their safe mechanism, they don't feel safe, and they don't feel safe financially. So as another agent that has your shit together, that is executing on deals, doing the things that you need to do, like you can't get caught up in another person's smoke. So I think to your point, what you said earlier on, bro, and you're so spot on, is like, man, don't get caught up in anybody's smoke. Step back, get to the fire, be empathetic in the situation. And we've said it, for the last 6 months, right? I truly believe that you have to lead every situation. And you have to lead everybody in every situation. You have to lead your clients. You have to lead the other agent. You have to lead the inspector, the title, the appraiser, the lender, the attorneys. Like it's your burden. You have to carry that burden right now as a true expert and a true advisor moving into the future, right? Everybody's starting to get their crystal balls out. What does it look like moving into the future? What does it look like in 25? All the business dynamics, but first and foremost is that you have to take on the responsibility that you have to lead every interaction, every transaction, everything through. If not, you're going to get choked out because you're going to fall into the smoke.
Get the trust to sign an agreement on that buy side. Whereas before, they didn't have to sign anything. Some did. I know our team, we coached our team to do it, but go deeper. And what you mean is that you feel it's going to go more transactional versus relational.
Yeah. I mean, I think anytime you're talking about compensation and money exchanging hands, and that's a part of the dialogue, it's immediately going to go transactional. I tell my team all the time, and I tell this to agents, if you are concerned or insecure about talking about the financial aspect of the transaction, that means that you are probably insecure about your value proposition, right? And so it's one of those things that I think some of the agents that are really freaking out about asking a buyer to make a financial commitment to them up front, they're freaking out or they're insecure about it because they're really just struggling to articulate their differentiating, elements between them and other agents, right? And so I think that what we're going to see is as you start having these conversations with buyers and you're starting to articulate your value and ask to be compensated for the value we provide, all of a sudden now this turns more transactional, because if you can't articulate that value, and I'm saying I want 3%, let's just say that's the magic number, they're going to be like, well, I can call the agent down the street that'll do it for 2.5 or 2 or 1.5 or whatever it is. And so I think what's going to happen is you are going to start to, just like what we used to do on the listing side with menus of services, just like when we go on a listing side and we talk about our success stories, here's the people that we've helped, here's how we help them, here's our strategy. I think that all leans into the transactional side of the conversation. And I think that's really where the buyer business is going. We laid out this entire script for our team where we go through and talk about, here are success stories or social proof of people that we've won in multiple offers. Here's success stories or social proof that we've helped them buyers negotiate significantly below the asking price. And so we want to leverage those success stories. Here's off-market properties that we've sold in the past 12 months. And we want to show you how we are helping buyers just like you find inventory that isn't visible to the rest of the market. And so this is all more transactional type of conversation. Not that the relational side isn't there as well, but I'm asking for something in return. And because of that, I need to be able to differentiate myself and provide more value, articulate more value than other agents. And that's where I think it goes transactional.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. I mean, I said, and I hope you don't mind, I just literally copied that quote down. And I think it's worth repeating. If you're insecure about having a financial conversation with your buyer, you're probably insecure about your value proposition. Literally, when we end this podcast, I'm hopping in the shower,
100%.
getting dressed, and I'm going to teach a class on the buy side about post-settlement strategies and scripts and dialogues and really making sure you're nailing your value proposition and articulating your value. Value unarticulated is value unappreciated. And if the value is unappreciated, money comes into play. Mm-hmm. Money will be questioned. Your fee will be questioned.
Yep.
And so you couldn't have said it better. That was brilliant.
100%.
Here's the number one thing you're going to need. And this is going to make it infinitely easier. Buyer's Advantage program. Buyer's Advantage. Do you have a Buyer's Advantage program or do you not? If you do not have a Buyer's Advantage program, the good news is you can message any of us. We can have a conversation about how you can become part of our community. If you're already part of our community, then we have that for you. And we have that resource that you can rip off, duplicate, change it, make it whatever you want. But the Buyer's Advantage program was the easiest thing to present to a buyer. And how did you
realized all the value,
built that, right? Like what forced you guys? There was a point in your career you were like, we need a better way on the buy side to articulate our value.
Dude, we were taking J. Abraham principles, risk reversal, articulating your value, all of that, and then took all the things that we do for a buyer that had never been really done before and put that into a document for us to be. It was a presentation on here's what we do to represent you in the sale. It was our first kind of take on a buyer presentation when they didn't have one, when nobody had one. And so, absolutely, it's everything we teach. We've been teaching forever, but
yeah. So ask us about that. Like I said, if you're part of our community, reach out. Our staff will get you a copy of one of ours. I know mine was slightly different than Jay Kinder Real Estate Experts, which was different than Michael Reese's. And the cool thing is you put your own spin on what you want your advantage. What advantages are you going to give your buyer that they're not going to get? So
it's the same. It was the Buyer Advantage program was the first version of what CHBA is today. There's the CHBA presentation. It takes all of the factors, over 80 different variables involved in the home buying process, and allows you to break that down on the things you're going to do to again, you're just building up the value of what it is you do. The Buyer's Advantage program was the document that kind of went alongside that highlighted everything. And it was what they would sign first because it was all value add. And then next they would sign the buyer brokerage agreement. When you got to the buyer brokerage agreement, you've been articulating all this value that they're going to get. And then the script was very simple. It's like, we're going to, our compensation, we charge 3%. We're going to add, and what I would do, and I go back and forth a little bit because there's a little bit of more risk involved with this today, but I love risk reversal. Say, listen, we guarantee to get our fee paid for by the seller, or we'll do it for free. That would be the most gangster 100% close rate offer you could make. No risk. You have no risk. I'm going to represent you. I'm going to represent you on this deal. I'm so confident I'll be able to get the seller to pay our fee. Now, that might be in the form of raising the price, or it might be built into the concessions that they offer, but we guarantee it that they will pay it, or I'll do it for free. And that would be, everybody says yes. That's just what I would do. And I would go to negotiating now I'm fighting for my commission. I'm negotiating. I'm a better negotiator than the other agent, I promise. And so, if we come back and they still wanted the house and I couldn't get it done, then every once in a while you might have to do one for free, I guess. But that's, that was, again, learning these principles from Jay Abraham. We were taking that and putting it into our listing presentation, buyer presentation, and creating ways to make the value visible so they can see what it is that we do for our compensation.
If you go to any of the big Facebook groups where there's, tens of thousands of agents on there, we have agents buying riders that say, I'm not claiming this is what you should be charging. So we're going to, let me put that disclaimer out there, but literally have signs that say 3% commission to buyers agents offered on this home. Yeah. Or, they're trying to come up with these crazy go around to really what they're trying to do, in my opinion, is they're trying to practice the same way that I've practiced for the last 26 years, the same way that everyone's practiced for the last 30, 40 years, 4 decades. And I believe we have to have a new mindset in how we move forward.
Yeah.
And, the workarounds aren't going to work out for everyone in the way they think they are. That's just my opinion.
So let's set the stage, right? So how have the rules of engagement, how's the game changed, right? So what do we know to be true today that we know August 17th? And then like what is DOJ, what are they saying, right? Like what is the actual, let's talk facts, right? Let's get the truth. And then we can say, okay, well, here's EXP stance, here's KW stance. And then we can kind of give our perspective from what we're seeing. I mean, you look at, over 50 years of experience in the real estate industry on this one Zoom. So we can kind of share from our perspective of right, wrong, kind of where we don't have the crystal ball, but where we kind of see with the indicators where things are going to go and how things should play out. So let's talk facts. Like, how has the game changed? Like, what's the foundation? What are the rules? What's DOJ saying?
What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, so obviously we know you cannot communicate any commission via the MLS. And there seems to be a lot of confusion around, and some MLSs are actually even interpreting it incorrectly, in my opinion. You are legally able to offer concessions, and you can communicate that legally. The Department of Justice and NAR says you can communicate concessions via the MLS, but some MLSs are saying, we don't care that they said that that's allowed, and we're not going to allow it. And so I do think there's going to be some gray area with those MLSs, because I'm sorry, if I'm an agent listing and selling real estate in that area, I'm putting it right in the remarks, and I'm taking the fine, and I'm taking that all the way, because the NAR and the Department of Justice said you can offer concessions via the MLS. And a lot of agents are saying to me, well, Jeff, but they're also saying you can still offer out, and here's where it's also confusing. Technically, you can sign a listing agreement with a seller that says you are going to split your commission with the buyer broker. That is legal. That has actually not changed. What's changed is you cannot communicate that via the MLS. So, a lot of agents are saying, well, Jeff, why are you pushing us? Because I'm pushing people towards offering concessions. Why not just, like you said, do the sign rider, or, have a standard email that goes out to every single agent that shows your listing? Well, because the MLS is the most efficient way to communicate information such as previously commission and now concessions. And so if my MLS is going to allow it, which as of right now they are, then I'm going to be advertising the commission as concessions, and the seller's going to know they have a choice. Of course, we have to change the language and make sure they understand they have a choice in the amount that they want to offer out. But you absolutely 1000% can offer it as concessions. And if your MLS allows it, that's the most efficient way to do it versus continuing to call it a commission. I think that there's a chance, and I'm now just speculating, but there's a chance they could come back and say, wait a minute, nope, this isn't, we weren't clear enough. You guys are not communicating this to sellers that they have a choice in how much they want to pay out. So you can't offer out, you can't advertise commissions anywhere. That is a possibility. I mean, that's just hypothetical, but what they are saying is you can advertise concessions on the MLS. So if we can advertise concessions and they can go towards their buyers, closing costs, prepaids, real estate brokerage fees, then that's the easiest way to do this. And that doesn't change a whole lot in what you're presenting at the kitchen table either.